After nearly 30 years of absence since his debut, the mighty Kong enjoyed something of a renaissance with a pair of films in Japan and a brief stint in TV animation in the 1960s. But by decade's end, things had once again fallen quiet for the simian giant. However, as any producer worth their salt can tell you, you can't keep a good monster down for long. Having taken some respite following his years abroad, Kong would return to screens in his homeland in a very big way. I'm Tyler Martin, and this is Monsters from the Id. By the end of the 1960s, the giant monster movie, a subgenre which owed its very existence to King Kong and had flourished for a time, was on its way out. Even in Japan, which had become a powerhouse of such films, interest among general audiences was waning. Nonetheless, certain parties, eager to capitalize on a proven formula, remained determined to take their own swing at the original movie behemoth. Around this time, Hammer Studios, known far and wide for their iconic takes on classic horror properties such as Dracula and Frankenstein, began to show interest in producing a Kong film, apparently submitting a proposal to RKO. Virtually nothing is known of this venture, as it obviously never materialized, but in fan circles, speculation still abounds as to what might have been. A few years later, Universal and Paramount began developing their own independent plans to remake King Kong. Universal threw their hat into the ring with The Legend of King Kong, a period piece to be set in the 1930s like the original. Stop-motion animator Jim Danforth was attached to the project, committing considerable creative energy to the film. However, after a messy legal battle, Paramount walked away with the rights to the character, and Legend was canned. Producer Dino De Laurentiis spearheaded Paramount's undertaking, bringing the towering Inferno's John Gillerman on board to direct from a screenplay by Lorenzo Semple Jr., with effects masterminds Carlo Rambaldi and Rick Baker handed the weighty task of bringing Kong to life. This ambitious venture would prove to be a troubled production, originally budgeted at $16 million before ballooning to a then preposterous $24 million. Most infamously, a full-sized animatronic Kong, intended to be the film's centerpiece, was constructed by Rambaldi. But despite high hopes, this monstrous machine was unwieldy, unconvincing, and plagued by technical issues, and the thing is ultimately glimpsed for only a few seconds in the finished picture. The vast majority of the Kong scenes were accomplished thanks to future effects makeup legend Rick Baker, donning a full-body ape suit he co-designed with Rambaldi. The story, set in the present day, begins with an oil tanker setting sail for a mysterious uncharted island where, it is believed, massive crude deposits lie waiting. The expedition is headed by Fred Wilson, a greedy executive for Petrox Oil, Charles Grodin chewing the scenery just enough. Primate paleontologist Jack Prescott, played by Jeff Bridges, sneaks aboard and tries to stop the voyage, warning the team of a legendary beast which he believes inhabits the island. Unfazed, Wilson makes Prescott the expedition's photographer. The ship chances upon a life raft bearing an unconscious woman, an aspiring actress named Dwan, Jessica Lange in her screen debut, who we learn is the sole survivor of a yacht accident. The ship reaches its destination, where promising oil deposits are quickly found, along with natives who kidnap Dwan and present her as a bride to their god, a gigantic gorilla called Kong, who, naturally, absconds with the actress. Jack and the others take off in pursuit, ultimately rescuing Dwan after a perilous chase. When the island's oil deposits turn out to be worthless, Wilson, in a move that would make King Kong vs. Godzilla's Mr. Taco proud, decides to capture Kong and use him as a promotion gimmick for his company. Jack is adamantly opposed, but Dwan, craving fame, goes along with the idea. That changes when the show opens in New York and things inevitably go awry. Kong once again seizes Dwan and scales the World Trade Center, where he is gunned down by helicopters, and plummets to the street below, to the horror of both Dwan and Jack. Despite its notorious production issues, this take on King Kong turns out quite well. It's a respectful reworking of the original premise, updated with the sensibilities of its day, tackling topics like the energy crisis and environmental exploitation. And though the tempo drags in spots, the drama and spectacle are strong throughout. The more sympathetic relationship between Lang's character and Kong is touching. The ill-conceived Kong robot notwithstanding, the effects work is generally quite excellent, and Richard Klein's striking camera work and John Barry's lush, grandiose music do much to enhance the film's impact. Opening in December of 1976, Paramount's King Kong fell short of the studio's lofty expectations, but managed to rake in enough of a profit for De Laurentiis to promise a sequel soon after. However, due to rights issues and a lack of acceptable scripts being put forward, said sequel was slow in coming, and Kong went into another decade-long slumber. At last, the sleeping giant awakened in 1986, when a proposal for a follow-up finally met with the producer's approval. King Kong Lives, which saw the return of director John Guillermin and special effects supervisor Carlo Rambaldi, aimed to bring America's biggest hero back with a special someone in tow. As the movie opens, we learn that Kong managed to survive his fall from the World Trade Center and is now on life support. Dr. Amy Franklin, played by Terminator's Linda Hamilton, concludes that his only chance is an artificial heart, necessitating a blood transfusion. As Kong is the only known member of his species, the issue of a donor renders Dr. Franklin and company at a loss. Luckily, adventurer Hank Mitchell, stage and screen veteran Brian Kerwin, happens to have just caught a giant female ape in Borneo, and a deal is quickly arranged. The operation proves a bit too successful as a reinvigorated Kong and his new bride manage to escape into the southern American countryside, pursued by an army unit commanded by the dangerously unhinged Lieutenant Colonel Nevitt, John Ashton, in a performance that threatens to seize the spotlight from the giant apes. It is revealed that Lady Kong is pregnant, and Kong, his synthetic ticker pushed to the limit, is determined to protect her and his unborn progeny at any cost, as a fierce showdown with the military looms. This is not exactly a high watermark for the franchise. The script is full of far-fetched twists and cheap gags, and there are some downright embarrassing moments. But for all its undeniable faults, King Kong Lives is ferociously entertaining. One may criticize the film for being overly sentimental, but this viewer finds great satisfaction in the sight of the mighty Kong giving it his all for the sake of his lady, who this time around is of the appropriate size and species. Rambaldi's effects work, while not necessarily convincing, is often dynamic and memorable, and the proceedings are complemented by an effective score by British composer John Scott. Though often singled out for abuse even by die-hard monster movie fans, King Kong Lives does not live up to its atrocious reputation. The critical and commercial response to King Kong Lives was, of course, overwhelmingly negative, and many more years would pass before our hero made his next comeback. For 90 years of Kong's fourth and final episode, we'll have a look at the most recent leg of his journey, and his unparalleled position in the pantheon of popular culture. Again, thank you for joining me. I'll see you next time.